From builders to boomers, all the others in between, and now in 2025 have arrived beta. The term Generation Beta has been coined by Mark McCrindle, a social analyst and demographer. The generation born from 2025 to 2039, children to the youngest families of millennials and older Zers. Beta will make up for 16% of the world population by 2035. A generation that will live into the 22nd century. My head spins as I think of this. I still think 1990 was only 20 years ago. Hello, everyone. I am Goldie, your host for this episode.
And I'm Lakshan, and you are listening to episode 30, which happens to be the final episode of season 1 of Mind the Gen Gap podcast.
Did you just say 30 episodes and season finale? I need a minute. Oh my God. Well, this definitely calls, in my case, for a mental backflip because I'm doing that in my head. And a cheers. If I had a glass, I'd do it right now, you know. And of course, being the quintessential Gen X that I am, I won't make a big fuss about this, although I can't help but imagine that we have managed, Lakshan, to tolerate each other for 30 weeks. Oh my God.
Don't say tolerate, okay?
I've put up with you and you've put up with me. Okay, guys. So let's really get the real deal now. I'm going to give you some eye-opening statistics. According to Riverside's podcast statistics and trends of 2025, a staggering 90% of podcasts fail to get past their third episode. Of those few that persevere, another 90% call it quits after just 20 episodes. Yep. So now, if that data doesn't establish our credibility, I don't know what else will. So here's your call to action. Guys, listeners, watchers, subscribe, follow, and please share Mind the Gen Gap with your community.
And also, please stay tuned for our comeback. We'll be back with season 2 starting May 23rd, 2025. And please keep an eye out for all the updates and activity happening on our socials.
Great. So now let's get into it. Episode 30. I could not think of a better ending to the season than to introduce our youngest generation on the map. We are a growing family, and today we welcome Beta. This episode will be done in 2 parts. Number 1, what are we expecting for Beta? And number 2, what impact or value can all the elder generations can provide for Beta? Beta belongs to a whole new world where a lot of pivoting, will be taking place. As we know, Generation Alpha, the ones currently behind them, and currently 14 years older, eldest member of Alpha would be 14, just to put some context for you all, have seen the rise of smart technology and artificial intelligence. But Generation Beta, they're going to live in a time when AI and automation are deeply embedded in literally everything that they do, whether it's school, the workplace, healthcare, or even entertainment. I want you all to imagine this. They might be the first to experience autonomous transportation on a large scale, wearables that monitor their health, immersive virtual environments as part of their daily routine. Their childhood will actually be defined by personalization with algorithms that are crafted to tailor their learning, their shopping, and even their social interactions in ways that we can only really dream about right now. Another difference with Gen Beta will most likely be their exposure their parents give to them on social platforms. Let's do a contrasting with millennials who have, used it like a powerful tool for documentation of everything. Now, my question is, will Gen Z be more conservative and private in their choices? We all know from data that, Gen Z recognizes the disadvantages of technology, but it also is keenly aware of its pitfalls, especially with mental health. In addition, Gen Beta will also inherit a world facing climate change uh, even more rapidly than we have, rapid urbanization as well, geographical trends, demographic shifts, rising incomes, and the influence of digitalization will just shape in every way Generation Beta's development, navigating the world and how they make their financial decisions. As this generation comes of age, their behaviors and their preferences are expected to significantly impact the global economy. So, what about the distribution of beta kids on planet and their financial worth? This is something that I looked into. I was able to learn that Generation Beta will be the least Asian generation in terms of relative population, with only about 46% born in the Asia Pacific region. Why? Due to declining fertility rates. We know this from previous episodes, especially in Japan. Now, in contrast, sub Saharan Africa will experience the largest growth, as 1 in 3 betas will be African. Despite the lower birth rates in Asia, the region's wealth, however, is increasing, with nearly 40% of Gen Beta spending occurring in APAC, predominantly, wait for it, in India and China. This shift signifies that the Gen Beta market in Asia will be a direct rival of Europe and US combined. Wow. So, although US and Europe will represent just 8% of Gen Beta's population, they are projected to contribute 41% of total spending. Okay. I have a lot on my mind regarding this topic. For starters, I'm thinking if urbanization continues to surge, it's reasonable to anticipate that a significant percentage of Gen Beta will be born in urban centers rather than rural areas. And this transition will undoubtedly necessitate a healthcare system that is prepared to adapt and improve, much to the contrary one that we have right now in many countries. Furthermore, if demographic shifts indicate that Asia will rival the combined populations of USA and Europe, I can easily envision a generation of multilingual betas, enriched by diverse cultures and languages. Lakshan, by the way, I'm also very acutely aware that you might be one of those lucky Gen Beta parents one day. What's coming up for you?
So lovely thing about this topic we're discussing is that uh, the both of us can operate from a place of I don't know, because
Yeah.
we're still kind of trying to make sense. There is very little data that we have about Gen Beta itself, right? We have
Mm.
idea about what kind of world it is that they will be growing up into, but about them itself there's comparatively quite little that we know. So it's all predictions, and some portion of this is going to be like hopefulness also, I would say. So one thing that's coming up for me is that the question that you had asked earlier on in this section about millennials were documenting pretty much everything with respect to their children. Will Gen Z be more conservative and private in their approach to parenting, or in terms of putting documentation on social media, right? So I know for a fact that what I would do is very much keep it conservative, private, and all, because I'm like, no, they don't need. If they choose to be on social media, let them do it on their free will. Let me not be the one to kind of expose them without their not even consent, without their awareness also. So that's one thing that comes up for me. So I presume that there are quite a few Gen Z who also would think like me, even though I'm not technically Gen Z, I'm zillennial. But I feel like that cohort of people will also probably think the same. And I really like this aspect of Gen Beta being potentially multilingual,
Mm.
because I'm someone who is fascinated and uh, in deep admiration of people who can speak multiple languages. I myself can only speak like three properly, four little bit, but that's about it, right? And that being the reason being because I live in like South India, and over here, like if you learn one of the South Indian language, you can pick up the others. It's not too hard. So that's the case over here. But I'm hoping that as more Gen Beta are, what do you say? What do you call it? Exposed to more languages and cultures, that they will pick up all these things at a fairly young age, and it'll stick with them for a longer time. And I'm hoping that I can leverage that into helping them, into having them help me learn more languages as well. So these are some things that are coming up for me. I'm also very very surprised that um, like only what is it, 8% of the Gen Beta population will be from US and Europe. That is,
Yeah, born out of Asia as well.
okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
yeah,
Southeast, not Southeast Asia, Asia Pacific,
yeah.
because of the declining, fertility rates. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's all super interesting for me in terms of what are the various things that have come up. And one thing I was thinking as you were sharing this is that um, Gen Z did not know a time before the internet. Gen Alpha did not know a time before social media,
Yeah.
and Gen Beta will not know a time before AI. So that's something I think is quite crazy. It's like each generation uh, cannot relate to certain aspects of the previous one at all. It's like not going to be possible for them. So I feel like that's indicative of how quickly technology is moving, and that's one of the things that we also cover in quite a few of the episodes that we've done so far.
Yeah, I think that's a fascinating insight you've just provided, Lakshan, not knowing what came before. And in many ways, I think the value that comes from knowing everything that came before and even before technology is what brings me personally into the next part of our conversation today. Pulling on the same thread that you were saying about uh, facilitating them, to learn these multiple languages as a responsible act, on part of the elder generation, and then of course leveraging on that and learning from them. So what I'm trying to say here is, part two is essentially about what impact or value can all the older generations provide for beta. They've just begun their journey, and yet discussions about their future have already commenced. Whilst it's true that they will encounter, a myriad of changes, and we don't really know those yet, it is equally important, therefore, to recognize the significant influence of the existing generations that will kind of shape, their experiences, just the way you and I have been shaped by our predecessors, and also in their perspectives. We must acknowledge that these intergenerational dynamics play a crucial role in guiding and supporting beta as they navigate their path forward. So what better way than to give my own insight as, a member of Generation X? My perspective is largely shaped by my own childhood, and those of my children. I can speak for them and for myself. So what I'm noticing, significantly in beta is an enhancement in the quality of life for them across various aspects. For example, I'm seeing gaming being replacing traditional toys, for example, education becoming extremely increasingly rather customized, and the role of after school tutors for subjects like maybe maths or a language potentially fading away. Of course, this is all speculative at this point, as we said. So I want to make a vision looking ahead, to 2039, when I will be 61 years old, young. My, I know it stunned you, right? For a second. I stunned myself when I had to do the math. I'm imagining, my interactions at this point with someone from Generation Beta. It could involve a child between 0 and 15 years of age at that point. So this raises the question, how can I prepare myself now to pace up and keep pace with these younger generations? I believe that rather than competing with their strengths, I want to focus on adding value through my own experiences and fostering, I would say, a collaborative relationship, even if it's with someone who is 46 years my junior, which it could well be. So I believe it's essential for all generations to be aware of the values that they pass down and try to make them as positive as possible. And as I reflected on this topic, a number of thoughts and ideas came to my mind. I'd like to share a few of them, but I encourage you to share your insights as well, Lakshan. As someone from Gen X, I grew up during a time with significant cultural transition, and I believe I can play a valuable role in helping Beta navigate these diverse cultural landscapes that they are going to also encounter. I've learned to appreciate different perspectives, and I aim to encourage empathy and inclusivity as well in this rapidly, changing world. Um, I've also witnessed economic fluctuations and global challenges throughout my life, whether it was as a teenager, a young adult, or now in my late 40s. I understand that there's one aspect that I hold very firmly in me, which is resilience and adaptability, so quintessential to Gen X, right? So therefore, I hope to inspire Gen Beta to confront their own challenges with courage and creativity, drawing from the lessons that I've learned along the way. I think our pragmatic solution focused approach will never be policed by anyone because that's who we are known for. And so I speak for myself. Lastly, I also want to be very aware to not make the same mistakes that baby boomers have made regretfully. That has had impact on a lot of millennials. I'm referring to like the inherited wealth that we can leave behind, for Beta. There's so much argument and conversation about climate change being largely a responsibility that boomers have brought along. Maybe they didn't know better, the use of plastic, etc. So I want to be that generation that is able to be more considerate. And, whilst Gen X and Beta are roughly equal in size, Gen X currently does find themselves at the height of their career and financial possibilities, right? So therefore, projections are indicating that Gen X will drive global consumption until at least 2033, primarily due to their significant contribution in spending in high income countries. So therefore, it's very vital that we think very carefully about the environment that we are creating today and what we leave in the hands of Gen Beta. Okay. Please share me your reflections, Lakshan. I'm keen to hear what you're thinking.
Yeah, I love that last part that you mentioned. Um, Essentially, in terms of a lot of millennials and Gen Z today, when you would see it all over social media, uh, talking about all these financial struggles that they are experiencing, things that we also cover in previous episodes, and a lot of the blame goes towards boomers. They tend to
Yeah.
blame boomers a lot,
Mm.
and of course, I totally understand why they would do that, but as you also said, it's important for us to be empathetic and kind of understand where did the boomers get their perspectives from.
Yeah.
Similarly, like learning from that dynamic, I really like how you're kind of saying, you specifically and Gen X as a whole, the role that you would like to play is to not create that kind of experience growing up for uh, Gen Beta. Right? I really like that the point that you made, and it's important for us to be responsible and to be intentional
Mm.
with the choices that we make today, especially because in case of Gen X, you guys are at the height of your financial capacity, right? In
Yeah.
terms of the impact that you have on the world. So I like that we're conversing in that direction right now. One thing that came up for me is that recently, about 10 days or so ago, I was speaking to this uh, Gen Alpha kid. He's about 11 years old,
Mm.
sweet boy, a very intelligent child, and he was complaining about his academics, and he was like, "I'm not able to see the point of studying certain subjects." and he was talking about how I see the point of maths, I see the point of programming and all that stuff. I don't see the point of social studies, history, and all that. I don't see the point of that. Why should I know all this? And because it's a coaching conversation, and he was talking about a lot of other things, I did not want to dwell on that at all. But it stayed with me because it's the way of thinking that I think a lot of us adopt as we are school going children. When we are in school, we feel like, what's the point of all of this? When are we going to use
Yeah.
this in the real world, right? But it's like over time, I understood the importance of things like history, that there is so much you can learn from what happened in the past
Mm.
that tells you why things are the way they are in the present and what learnings we can apply in the future, right? Similar to how we go about it in coaching. We take the learnings from the past and see how can we apply it now for the future. So that's something I want us to be able to teach the younger generations the importance of learning about history, what came before, and all that. And another thing that's coming up for me, since we spoke about this collaborative kind of relationship that you want to foster, is while we have so much, we will have a lot of wisdom and advice and suggestions and knowledge and experience that we can tap into to help and serve the upcoming generations. I also feel like it's important for us to not operate the same way that our older generations did, in the sense of telling us what to do rather than asking us what would you like to do and how can I help you.
Yeah.
This giving unsolicited advice, because growing up that's how it was for you,
Yeah.
may have worked for you, but clearly the generations today don't like being either told what to do or being given advice, unsolicited advice, because they feel like this person does not understand my context.
Yeah.
Instead, openly saying, hey, I have all of these things over here. There's a lot of tools in my toolkit. Based on what you're experiencing right now, what do you feel from my toolkit I can leverage to help you, say, bridge your gap? And I think going from a place of saying I have so much experience, I want to do something with it, to asking them, hey, how can my experience help you? I think that will really bridge this gap, and I feel personally that that is how you can truly mind the Gen gap moving forward with Gen Beta.
Beautiful. I loved that, edge that you gave on not telling them what to do because it worked for you, rather being curious about where they stand, and almost this art of storytelling, which helps and is far more useful than instructive teaching, perhaps. Uh, because at the end of the day, let's remember one thing, and it's coming up for me. There's one skill that's dying, unfortunately, and too rapidly, I think, which is critical thinking. It's it's being diminished as a consequence of having automation at the tip of our fingers, and the opportunity to simplify everything with just tapping in a few things, but not really giving it that deep thought on why is it that I want to produce this, and where did this idea really come from. But storytelling has always given us this beauty of critical thinking, hasn't it? Because it invites empathy, it invites compassion, and it invites you to be in the shoes of another person. So I think what you've said really just embeds very beautifully what you as a millennial, zillennial in this case, can pass down. Uh, very, very nuanced to what you were passed down. It's got a similar flavor to it, but you've just added a few more spices and, texture that you're bringing forward as the millennial that you are. Yeah, I think both of us have connected with that part of, giving our wisdom, but from a place of what about you and what do you think you want to do with it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah, so with that, we've come to the end of episode 30. And as we said, season finale of Mind the Gen Gap podcast. I've been your host, Goldie.
and I've been your co-host Lakshan. Thank you so much for listening, watching, and tuning in. all the way to the very end of this episode, and also all the way to the very end of this season of the podcast.
Muchas gracias por escuchar y por vernos y tenemos muchas ganas de veros otra vez.
See you in the next one.
Hasta pronto.
Bye.
Bye.